My fusion system. Fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapters 46 to 60. Chapter 46. The second round of recruitment. 10 minutes later, Wendy returned to her room. Her face was red. She had been in a hurry to escape, so she did not have time to change her bathrobe. Wendy leaned against the bedroom door and covered her chest with her hands. Her heart was pounding. The scene still echoed in her mind. Wendy had wanted to scrub Watson's back because that was what her brother, List, had told her to do. As a nobleman's maid, she had a responsibility to serve her master. She would have to cook for him, help him with his bath, and even warm his bed. Wendy was still young, so no one would expect her to warm her master's bed, but she could still help with the bath. However, she did not expect it would be that awkward. Young master has a huge penis. No, young master's body is really strong. No. Wendy suppressed the wild thoughts in her mind and took a deep breath. Suddenly, she was a little worried. It was Watson's kindness that let her live in such a huge castle. List even proposed to move their parents to the same place, and Watson had agreed. Wendy respected her young master. What if he wanted to terminate her job because he was not satisfied with that matter? Young master is a good person. He won't punish me that easily, right? If he really needs to do something about it, then he can deduct my salary. She was Watson's only maid, so her salary was higher than her brother's, about 50 gold coins a month. But I left without doing anything. Would young master really not blame me? Wendy still worried about her gains and losses when someone knocked on the door. She opened it and saw List. When he noticed that she was in a clean white bathrobe, he frowned and said with a straight face, "Why are you dressed like this? Did you take a bath? This is Black Moon Castle. Don't act too casually and treat this as your home." List was one of the first batches of guards that Watson had recruited. Other than Alan, who had the highest talent, he had been eating 3 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs every day. His strength had increased by more than 1,000 caddies, and he was at the peak of bronze tier warriors. He was only a step away from silver tier, so Watson appointed him as the vice captain of the guards. Of course, List did not dare to let Watson down. So when Wendy went to the castle, he had warned his sister not to cause any trouble and to serve the family dutifully, especially when it was Watson. So, when he saw his sister in the corridor in a loose bathrobe, his mind thought about the situation if some burly guards had found her. However, he did not want to think of the implication. He already saw Wendy as his young master's woman. "You are right, brother. I know I'm wrong." Wendy's face reddened when her brother reprimanded her. She did not dare to refute him. Instead, she rolled her wet jade-green hair with her fingers. How would she explain it? Perhaps she had bumped into the young master while he was taking a bath and saw something she could not describe? If that were the case, List would be even angrier. "Forget it, it's not a big deal. But you should be more careful next time," List said as he sat on the soft sofa in the room. He picked up a cup of unfinished tea on the table, took a sip, and looked around the room. It was quite a good room. Much better than hundreds of rooms in the dark castle. It had 2 smaller rooms and a living room. Each room had a soft bed with a curtain on the side. There was a set of solid wood tables and chairs in the living room, 2 sofas, and a fireplace in the right wall, and the floor was covered with a red carpet. Some charcoal had been added to the fireplace as it was already autumn. List nodded in approval. He was the vice captain, and he did not even get such treatment. At least Wendy had a single room, but he had to live with his parents. "Wendy, it is good that you can live in such a nice place and eat delicious food every day. However, you must not slack off and let young Master Watson think that you are a lazy person. In addition to cleaning the floor and the room daily, you also have to trim the trees outside, and..." List mentioned all the work that he could think of. At that moment, he was the only one who could bring his family members to Black Moon Castle. The other guards were extremely envious of the special treatment he enjoyed, and they were all secretly troubled. So why did they not think of sending their daughters or sisters there? Many of the guards had taken a few days off to go home and bring their female family members there. List knew what was in their mind. As the first batch of maids to live in the castle, Wendy was blessed with exceptional conditions, and she might even become the head housemaid in the future. List was the vice captain of the guards, and Wendy was the head housemaid. They would be able to achieve great success. When it was time for the patrol, List gave Wendy some serious advice before he turned around and left. On the one hand, he was there to teach Wendy, on the other hand, it had already been a month. He had been busy with training every day, and he was always a little worried when he saw Wendy occasionally. After List left, Wendy sat back on the sofa. She dragged her hands across her fair cheeks and looked at the flames in the stove across from her. Brother is right. I can get 50 gold coins every month. This is something that our parents can't even earn in 10 years. I want to do more for young master. At least, I want to be worthy of my salary. Wendy made up her mind as she clenched her fists. If she were to encounter the young master while he was in the bath, then she would not run away. Instead, she would take one with him. Of course, it would be better if she did not need to do that, but at least she could take a bath. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. Zeke and Zenoa stayed for 2 days after their return. They asked Watson to fuse 100 sets of weapons and armors that they had brought back into bronze equipment in sets. Then, they fused all the medicinal herbs into high-quality medicine. A black iron armor was only worth a few dozen silver coins, but the price would increase tenfold after it became bronze. Watson managed to fuse more than 100 sets of bronze equipment and weapons and about 100 pieces of bronze jewelry in 2 days. There were also thousands of herbs that ranged from bronze to gold tier. Those items were worth at least 100,000 gold coins. Then, Zeke and Zenoa went to Montevideo with those bounties. With these bountiful gains, his third and fourth brothers headed to Monte Town. Watson noticed that his 2 brothers had gotten used to their roles as merchants, but that did not stop them from running around. Before they left, they even said that they would bring a girlfriend home. Naturally, they would not want Watson to overtake them on that front. Watson smiled when he heard that. "Good morning, young Master Watson." Wendy stood in front of him as she trimmed a crooked tree in the yard. "Good morning," Watson lifted his hand in response. Ever since Wendy caught him while he was taking a bath a few days ago, he did not dare to go to the bathroom. He was also embarrassed whenever he saw Wendy. On the contrary, Wendy, who had always been very shy, took the initiative to serve him tea during dinner. Then, after that, she would wipe his mouth with a handkerchief. When it was bedtime, she would accompany him in the bedroom and talk to him until he fell asleep. She did not chase him away. Her actions made Scarlett extremely jealous. Every time they ate, Watson had to endure her sister's glare at him. Even the rest of the family members had strange expressions on their faces. "Young master, would you like a bath after your morning exercise? I can boil the water now." After she said that, Wendy was prepared to run back to the castle with the scissors in her hand, but Watson stopped her. "Wait, no need. I don't want to take a bath because I have more important things to do later." When Watson recruited his guards, he mentioned that Black Moon Castle would recruit more people next month. That day was their second round of recruitment. He believed that many potential guards were waiting patiently outside the castle, and Watson looked forward to meeting them. Chapter 47. All members are eliminated. More than 20 bronze-tier warriors chatted in groups of 2s and 3s outside the Black Moon Castle. They looked nervous. All of them had gifts. Some had magical beasts, and some had armors and weapons. Some even had carts filled with meat and wheat. It was not an exaggeration to say that some carts had dismantled beds, tables, and chairs on them. Perhaps they had torn down their furniture and brought them there. Most of the bronze-tier experts within a 10-kilometer radius were there. 3 old men, who had also applied for the job last time, were also there. They chatted with each other. "I brought 4 people this time. Young master promised me 4 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs," one of them said. "Hey, it's too early for a celebration." Young Master Watson said that it's not enough to just bring people here. "We still have to pass the test. Even though I only brought 3 people, they are already bronze-tier warriors in their 30s. They had a lot of room for development in the future. They'll definitely get 3 eggs," another person said. While everyone talked, Watson brought Wendy outside of the castle. As she stood behind Watson, Wendy looked at the guards curiously. She wanted to prepare a bath for Watson, but he rejected her offer. He told her to go and familiarize herself with the recruitment process instead. He said that he would let her handle all the recruitment matters in the future. Watson looked at the more than 20 bronze-tier warriors in front of him, as well as the gifts they carried with them, and smiled in satisfaction. He had a simple idea when he brought Wendy there. After the 2 recruitment rounds, those bronze-tier warriors who wanted to join him would definitely be there. The rest of the group were either below the bronze tier or fine on their own, so they did not need to go there. He believed that fewer people would apply for the job next month. He also had too much to do, so he could not continue the recruitment process in person. Zeke and Zenoa had urgent things to attend to. Scarlett was still too young, and his eldest brother was busy with his cultivation. So the only one he could trust and also qualified for the job was Wendy. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in Black Moon Castle's recruitment process. As long as you pass the assessment, you will receive 3 Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs a day. If someone has brought you here, please let me know who it is. Your guide will also get an egg if you pass the assessment, Watson said to the people in front of him. Just as we expected, we can get a pentacolor fragrant chicken egg. Wait, did young master say a Rainbow Phoenix chicken egg? The man rubbed his hands excitedly when he heard that. Suddenly, he sensed that something was wrong and cried out in surprise. Did they not say that it was the pentacolor fragrant chicken? So how did it become the Rainbow Phoenix chicken? The Rainbow Phoenix chicken was a gold-tier magical beast at a higher level than a pentacolor fragrant chicken. Had a Rainbow Phoenix chicken appeared in the Black Moon Castle? The crowd's eyes became more fervent when they thought about that. The reward had exceeded their expectations. Those who were there to try their luck were determined to get into the Black Moon Castle. There were also those who were doubtful of the situation. Even a great noble would not have a magical beast like the Rainbow Phoenix chicken. It was only one short month, and Watson had changed the pentacolor fragrant chicken as a reward, so they did not know if he was lying. If you're ready, let's start the test. Watson was very satisfied with everyone's expression. He waved to Wendy. Go and get the captain of the guards, Alan, and ask him to bring a basket of Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs. Maybe some people did not believe him, but it did not matter. He would act to dispel their doubts. Yes, young master. Wendy nodded respectfully before she turned around and walked into the castle. In just a short while, Alan came out. He was wearing armor and riding a liger. The majestic liger, his grand armor, the guardian sword that hung at his waist, and his long and elegant blue hair. The combination made him look heroic. The crowd breathed heavily and looked envious when they saw him. Soon, everyone's eyes moved from Alan toward the basket filled in his hand. It had many colorful eggs in it. The eggs flickered in 7 colors and emitted a delicate fragrance. Just one look and one could tell that those were not ordinary eggs. The smell increased their blood flow and their combat aura strength, and that was only the smell. If they were to eat it, well, no one doubted Watson's words anymore. Greetings, young master. What is your command? Alan jumped off the liger, and he knelt in front of Watson. The basket of eggs was still in his hand. Alan, get up. You are the captain of the guards, so you will be the examiner for the next test. You don't have to do anything. If they can force you to take a step backward, then it means that they pass. Watson walked forward and helped Alan up. After he set the same rules as the previous test, he lowered his voice and said, "Don't feel burdened. Just do your best. It doesn't matter even if no one passes. Don't worry, young Master Watson. I won't let you down." Alan rolled his eyes and turned to face bronze-tier warriors in front of him. Which one of you would like to be the first? It seemed that young Master Watson wanted to use him to establish his authority. He was an intelligent person, so he immediately understood what Watson wanted to do. Watson hoped that he could show those candidates some authority and make them understand the strength of the guards in Black Moon Castle. Even if someone passed, they should not be arrogant and undisciplined after they joined the team. It would make them easier to manage. Alan had only joined Black Moon Castle the previous month. Even if the guards had improved, it would not have been much. However, his improvement was the fastest. He was already at the peak of the bronze tier. Since his armor, long sword, and jewelry were also from the same tier, those warriors would not be able to make a move against him easily. I'll go first. I'll go first. As soon as he said that, a few people walked out from the crowd. They could feel the combat aura that Alan emitted. He was only a bronze-tier warrior. Even if they could not defeat Alan, could they make him take a step backward? The rules that Watson had set were too simple. It was clear that he had looked down on them. That was what some of them thought. However, the reality was cruel. It only took 1 minute for a few candidates to retreat with an ugly expression. They had used all of their might, but Alan did not budge. On the contrary, their fists landed Alan's armor, and it had hurt. Alan crossed his arms and looked at them disdainfully. Anyone else? Let's continue. The rest of the candidates gritted their teeth as they rushed forward. 10 minutes later, there was no one left beside Alan. All of them had failed. I didn't expect that none of you could make Alan retreat. According to the rules, if no one passes the assessment, then all of you can go back. Watson pretended to be disappointed and sighed. The crowd's expression changed. Some of them had torn down their houses because they wanted to join the Black Moon Castle. They had brought all of their properties there, so they would not have a place to stay when they returned home. That was especially true for those old men who had participated in the test before that. They thought that the test was easy and that they would pass as long as they brought gifts with them. However, the result had been different, so some of the candidates were resentful. The three old men also had a bitter expression on their faces. They thought that they would get the eggs as long as they brought some people to participate in the test. That was what had happened the last time. Who knew that Watson would change his routine? That was great, their eggs were gone. Their candidates would definitely think that they were swindlers. If no one passed the test, then would those applicants not think that they had been scammed? Then, Watson spoke. Well, logically speaking, everyone should be eliminated, but don't worry, I'm a soft-hearted person. If you're below 50 years old, then I can be swayed to keep you here. Chapter 48. You won't suffer or be fooled. Really? Young Master Watson, you're not lying to us, are you? Many of the candidates widened their eyes in disbelief when they heard that. Only the gods knew what they had experienced. They had arrived there with troubled hearts. They did not know if they could pass the test. Many of them were relieved when they heard Watson's rules. They thought they could pass the test, and it had slapped them right on their faces. Then, just as they were about to give up, Watson said that they had passed. Did he play them? After they had experienced the ups and downs of their short life, they were dumbfounded. You have seen how strong Alan is. He is the vice captain of the guards. He had been only a bronze tier warrior, just like yourself. He has only joined Black Moon Castle for a month, but his strength has risen to this level. I think you should understand what this means. Watson pointed at Alan with a serious expression. Young Master Watson is right. Alan puffed out his chest. He cooperated with Watson and said, I wasn't even as strong as you, and I was the weakest among the bronze tier warriors. However, now, I can suppress all of you. This is thanks to young Master Watson and also his pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs. If you join the Black Moon Castle, you'll be as strong as me in 1 month. Did you hear that? Those who want to join the Black Moon Castle can come here to collect the eggs. Watson thought that Alan was brilliant. Only 4 of the 20 candidates stood there helplessly while the rest rushed toward Watson like a swarm of bees. Those 4 people had wrinkles on their faces. They were over 50 years old, they did not pass the test, and they were envious, but there was nothing they could do about it. They were only bronze tier warriors, and they might stay in that realm for their entire lives. So it was expected that Watson would not want them. Are these really the rainbow phoenix chicken eggs? Even though I have never seen a magical beast of this level, the waves and fragrance that these eggs emitted should not be wrong. The candidates, who had run toward Watson, held the eggs carefully in their arms. They looked delighted. Some even rubbed their cheeks against the eggs as their mouths drooled. I want to swallow these eggs. No, I should bear with it. I want to boil these eggs and eat them bit by bit. Alan stood at the side and curled his lips. He did not comment on how excited those people had looked. He remembered the same feeling when he was there the previous month. Watson had given him the pentacolor fragrant chicken then, but it had been changed to the rainbow phoenix chicken eggs. He was a little envious. If only he had been there a month later. Would Watson have given him 100 rainbow phoenix chicken eggs? Alright, those who have received their eggs can follow Alan back to the castle. Watson looked at the basket in Alan's hand. The recruitment process will continue as usual next month. I will choose one of the new recruits to be the examiner. If he can't do what Alan did and eliminate all the candidates, then I will send him away. Also, we have a competition in the castle every month, and the top 10 winners will get additional rewards, and the bottom 3 will lose their monthly salary. Those who rank last for 2 months in a row will have to leave by themselves. There were 27 applicants at that time. 3 of them were old men who had been there the last time. Another 4 men were eliminated because of their age. So, only 20 men remained, and when they included the castle's original guards, there were a total of 30 people. Watson wanted to turn his guards into knights who were not inferior to any army. The Black Moon Knight name was a symbol of his hope. Those knights only sought quality and not quantity. One should not think that everything was fine after they joined the Black Moon Castle. He did not like to do business at a loss. Even though he had a fusion system and it was not difficult for him to fuse high-level materials, he did not want to waste anything. Those people had to go through many rounds of elimination before only a few elites were left. As expected, those people who were excited as they held the eggs to their chest experienced a change in their expression. They did not dare to deny that there were people who coveted the luxurious treatment of Black Moon Castle and wanted to fool with their new status. However, they did not dare to have such thoughts anymore. If they did not work hard, they would be eliminated. There was no other place that would give them a rainbow phoenix chicken egg, but there were too many guards like them. There was no need to think too much about which they would choose. The rest of you, I can't let you join because of your age. But, Watson raised his voice halfway through his sentence, and when he realized that everyone's attention was on him, he continued to say, but you can still bring people to the test. If they were to join Black Moon Castle, then you'll become stronger and get the best weapons, armor, and even mounts. It doesn't matter if you can't join Black Moon Castle yourself, but your friends might still be able to do that. Even if your friends are eliminated, will their friends be eliminated as well? Many people wanted to laugh when they saw Watson proclaim the benefits of Black Moon Castle with a serious expression. They had only heard rumors about how Watson was a genius silver-tier warrior. They did not expect him to be so humorous. He did not seem like a child at all. Everyone was either nervous or disappointed that they were not selected, but his words swept them away. In short, you've done the right thing by coming to the Black Moon Castle. You didn't suffer any disadvantage, and you were not fooled as well. Watson thickened his skin as he shouted, same time next month. The third round of recruitment will be held at Black Moon Castle. We will not only recruit guards, but also experienced farmers. Bring someone here, and if they pass, you will get a rainbow phoenix chicken egg. This rule is also applicable to those who have joined the castle. That's all I have to say. Then, Watson brought Alan, Wendy, and the people who had passed back to Black Moon Castle. Rumble. The gates of Black Moon Castle closed with a loud bang. It left behind 7 bronze-tier-old warriors with an excited expression on their faces. They would get a rainbow phoenix egg if their candidate passed the test. What were they waiting for? They had lived at the border for so long, so they had friends. They were determined to bring with them as many people as possible. Then, the 7 old men looked at each other before they dispersed. They were pressed for time. They did not want to be taken advantage of, so they needed to strike first. After Watson returned to Black Moon Castle, he decided to fuse some ores to create more walls. He wanted to expand the Black Moon Castle. When Zeke and Zenoa left, they left behind a large amount of ores. These ores were suitable materials after they were slightly fused. Many of the surrounding farms had lost their powerful guards. If they were to lose the farmers, it would be difficult for them to continue with the operation. Initially, Watson's family only had 10 acres of land, so there was no need to recruit more farmers. However, he wanted to bring guards and farmers from across the border, and the other farms would be left with only an empty shell. He would want to make an offer to buy those lands from the farmers, and he could unify the nearby area in one fell swoop. 1 year, no, half a year. Black Moon Castle will become the biggest force at the border, and we will build a town that is no weaker than Monty Town. Watson clenched his fists as he looked at the sun in the sky. It was bright. Black Moon Castle was like the sun as it slowly rose at the border. Chapter 49. Do you blame me for being rich? The autumn wind rustled. It was almost October. It had been more than 20 days since the second recruitment in Black Moon Castle. The ground inside the castle was filled with huge dark jade slabs. There were at least a few thousand of them. If they were combined, they would form a wall that was several kilometers long. About 30 Black Moon Knights sat on the hill of stone slabs. They wiped the sweat from their foreheads. The 3-month winter will be here in 2 months. At that time, magical beasts will come out from the dense fog forest to plunder for food. It is not usually easy to survive the winter, but this year will be different, a guard said. Yes, I didn't dare to close my eyes whenever I slept during the winter. I was afraid that once I closed my eyes, magical beasts would come into my house. However, we don't have to be afraid while we're in the castle. I will also bring my family here in a month, another guard spoke. The castle walls were at least 3 meters tall. There were also short spears stuck on top of the walls. Ordinary Iron Tier magical beasts would not be able to climb over the walls, let alone destroy them. As for Bronze Tier magical beasts that could climb over the walls, they were quite rare in the Misty Forest. The 3 months of winter referred to the Holy Dragon Kingdom's 12th, 1st and 2nd months. During those few months, the kingdom would have continuous snowfall, and crops would not be able to grow. Usually, the price of food would soar at that time, and the various large farms would close their manors. They would use the food they had to survive the winter and occasionally organize guards to go out and hunt for some magical beasts. The 3 months of winter was a feast for magical beasts, and it was the same for humans. In a world where strength was paramount, it was a dog-eat-dog world in terms of relationships. However, things were a little different that year. After Watson announced that he would recruit guards and farmers, Bronze Tier guards and above within a dozen-kilometer radius expressed their intention to seek refuge. Even quite many farmers were moved, which caused various large farms to panic. Young Master Watson had deliberately chosen this time to recruit people. I wonder how those farms that lost their farmers and guards will be maintained in the winter. The guard who spoke at the beginning sighed with emotion. That is not something you should worry about, think about yourselves. If you have the strength to speak, then you have had enough rest. Get up and continue with your training. It's almost time for the guards' grand competition in the castle. When that time comes, don't blame me for being merciless. In the crowd, the captain of the guards, Alan, hugged his helmet. After he looked around him, he spoke to the group with a cold expression. After the second recruitment, Alan still had a headache about how to train his men. In the end, Watson came up with a training plan for everyone. For example, some had to carry thousands of kilograms of dark jade slabs on their backs every day. Some had to go to the Misty Forest once every 3 days to catch 10 Iron Tier nests. Some had to go to the Misty Forest once every 5 days to fight against the Golden Flash, and the last 3 people standing would receive additional rewards. Those were acceptable exercises. There were also some strange training practices. They had to jump on the ground like frogs with their hands behind their backs or raise their legs high during squats. Finally, when they trained for the formation, Watson would ask them to form a square formation and walk forward, and they had to move in an orderly fashion. They had their own training methods, especially when they were already a Bronze Tier warrior. They were not satisfied with the training methods that Watson had given them. Why would they need to train for formation? Would their orderly movements increase their strength? Frog jumps were not only comical, but they also did not seem to be much of use either. They might as well fight someone to increase their strength quickly. However, their thoughts quickly changed. After more than 20 days of training, they felt that their strength had increased by a lot. For example, William was the strongest man among them, but he was also the slowest. After days of training, William's strength did not increase by much, but his speed and endurance had improved. The others felt the same. They had only wanted to lean toward a specific ability. Those who were quick would only think about how to make themselves faster. Those who were good at defense would only continue to increase their defense skills. However, under Watson's training method, their comprehensive abilities had developed. Among them, Alan and List had broken through to become Silver Tier warriors 2 days before that. Those who complained about Watson's training methods had to keep quiet and follow the exercises wholeheartedly. At the same time, they respected Watson even more. He was a child, yet he could think of such an excellent and effective training method. It was no wonder he could become a Silver Tier warrior at such a young age. In a spacious room within the castle, that was Watson's office. As he leaned against a comfortable chair, Watson enjoyed the warm wind by the fireplace. He picked up a training schedule in his hand. The training schedule listed the targets for each week according to the day. They had jump training on Mondays, which included frog jumps, high jumps and long jumps. On Tuesdays, it was speed training, a 100-kilometer sprint, and on Wednesdays, it was strength exercises. One would carry the dark jade slab on their back and walk 10 laps around the castle. As for Thursdays, they would have obstacle training. Everyone would go to the Misty Forest to catch some magical beasts. On Fridays, they would train their formation skills. On Saturdays, they would train in actual combat and fight against the Golden Flash. Finally, on Sundays, it would depend on the situation. If they were not tired, then they would continue to train. If they were too tired, then they would rest for a day. Other than catching magical beasts for selfish reasons, The rest of the training system was the model that Watson had followed in his previous life's army. It was a modern civilization that had lasted for thousands of years. The method that he had developed to stimulate physical strength in that world was at least 2 eras ahead. According to the training method, these people won't be particularly outstanding in any aspect, but their overall strength will definitely be the strongest. Watson put the training schedule down. Since the pentacolor fragrant chicken had been turned into the rainbow phoenix chicken, it could produce 1,000 eggs a day. There were so many that he could not finish them. That was why he dared to train the guards like that. Whoever's body was damaged, he would give them a few rainbow phoenix chickens. Those guards only needed to put in 10 times or 100 times the effort. They did not dare to say that they were better than any prodigy. At the very least, they could far surpass people of the same level. Watson picked up a few more letters on the table. The letters had been sent in succession over the past 2 days. The names on the letters were names of the major farmers. Watson opened one of the letters, glanced at it and found that the contents were very discreet. At first, he praised him for being young and promising. Later, he blamed him for stealing from other people at a high price. That had caused the farm to be in a state of panic. More than half of the people had wanted to leave. Watson realized that the contents of the other letters were almost the same. Polite people were always courteous to him, but some also insulted him for not being sensible and not giving others a way out. They even threatened him to unite and boycott Black Moon Castle. These people have crossed the line. They can't give their subordinates a comfortable living environment. What does it have to do with me if they can't keep their men? Are they blaming me for being rich? Watson folded the letter that he had finished reading and left his seat. He threw all the letters into the fireplace and looked at them as they burned. Then, he called out loudly, "Wendy, come in here." "Young master, what is your order?" Wendy, who was in a maid uniform, walked into the room. Even though her face looked young, her expression was much calmer than before that. It had been almost 2 months, and she was already a maid. "Send someone to revise the recruitment process." "Revise? Young master, were the previous conditions too generous?" "No, I think the previous conditions were too artificial. The guards willing to come to Black Moon Castle and pass the test will each have 10 rainbow phoenix chicken eggs per day. They can bring their families here to stay. All farmers who join us will be rewarded with 1 rainbow phoenix chicken egg per day and 10 caddies of bronze tier wheat." Wendy was shocked when she heard it, but Watson smiled as he spoke. He had never intended to develop things so amicably. Since those farmers had dared to threaten him, then they should not blame him for being rude. Chapter 50. Marriage. In the List manor at the border. Even though it had the same name as Watson's guard, that was not his manor. A hereditary baron called Wilbur List owned the estate, and he was not related to Watson's guard. It was a large manor, and it had hundreds of people. There was a rumor that the family was related to someone at the border. In that world, only noblemen had the right to a family name. To make it easier to differentiate between those 2 people, Wilbur List would be addressed as Wilbur. "Master Wilbur, something terrible has happened." The guard, Wesley, dashed into the manor with a pale face. Wilbur sat in the hall with a cup of tea in his hand. His face was gloomy. He had not been happy for the past few days. The List manor had been the best at the border, and he had hundreds of subordinates. However, a few days ago, a Black Moon Castle had suddenly appeared at the border, and they were recruiting people like mad. Even he was tempted by the conditions they offered. If he were to serve as a guard, he could get a set of bronze-tier defensive weapons and even a mounted horse. Everyone could get 3 pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs every day. Black Moon Castle did not only have many bronze-tier equipment, but they also had many pentacolor fragrant chicken eggs. He was depressed when he learned the owner of Black Moon Castle. The castle was by Edward, the down-and-out baron. Edward's eldest son, Vincent, had once worked for him. At that time, he even wanted to marry his daughter, Monica. Unfortunately, Wesley had ruined that. When Wesley explained it to him, Wilbur did not pay too much attention to it. It was only a pentacolor fragrant chicken. Even though he was tempted, he was not so shameless that he would just snatch it. However, the Black Moon Castle's power had gotten stronger. It made him a little regretful. If Vincent had become his son-in-law, then the Black Moon Castle would be his property. The pentacolor fragrant chicken and the bronze tier equipment would also be his. If he had so many resources to unify the border, It was not impossible for him to become a great noble who could stand up to the border guards. Wilbur thought about it. He was a little displeased with Wesley as the man had lusted after the pentacolor fragrant chicken and then had fallen out with Vincent. At that moment, when he heard Wesley's report, he frowned. "Can't you see that I'm drinking tea? Why are you shouting and running in here? Why do you look like that? Where are your manners as a noble guard? Go out and knock on the door again." "Yes, master." Wesley shrank his neck and turned to walk out of the door. After he knocked on the door again, he walked into the room. "Master, I have something to report. May I come in? Tell me, what happened?" Wilbur put the teacup down. "Master, the chief guard told me that he doesn't want to work here anymore. At the end of this month, he will go to Black Moon Castle." "What did you say?" Wilbur stood up with his eyes wide open. He raised his hand and swept the teacup off the table. It made a cracking sound. "Why didn't you tell me about such a big matter earlier?" Wesley had an aggrieved look on his face. Wilbur was the one who told him not to speak, and he was also the one who told him not to speak. He felt wronged. However, he did not dare to defend himself. He could only ask weakly. Not only the chief guard, but the other bronze-tier warriors in the manor also have the intention to go to Black Moon Castle. "Master, what should we do?" A hint of jealousy flashed across Wesley's eyes. He also wanted to seek refuge with Black Moon Castle. Unfortunately, he had a grudge against that family. Even if he went there, they would not take him. In addition to that, he was not a bronze-tier warrior, so it was impossible for him to pass the test. He had looked down upon Vincent back then, and he never expected that kid to be Black Moon Castle's eldest young master in only 2 months. Those ingrates. I worked so hard to raise them, feed them, and clothe them, and now they want to abandon me? Bastards. He was so angry that he cursed loudly. Wesley did not say anything. He understood the guard's thinking. There were no enemies in the world, only conflicting interests. Those people did not leave earlier because the price offered by Black Moon Castle was not enough to tempt them. It was not because they had a deep relationship with the manor. Black Moon Castle's new recruitment plan had spread to the nearby farms. It stated that everyone would get 10 Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs every day if they joined them. 1 egg was worth 10 gold coins, and 10 eggs meant 100 gold coins. It was 100 gold coins a day, 3,000 gold coins a month, and that would be 36,000 gold coins a year. He did not know if his master had that many assets, and if one could get such good benefits, who would stay. Wesley calculated the figure again, and he was regretful. If he had not used his power to bully others and angered Vincent, and if he had helped them instead, he might have been the chief guard in Black Moon Castle by then. He felt that he had missed out on those benefits. What should we do? It's almost winter. Without these guards, who will protect the family? I will never allow them to leave. Wilbur was like an ant on a hot pot. He paced back and forth. His tone gradually became irritable. Then, Wesley said, "Master, I have an idea. Didn't Vincent, the eldest young master of Black Moon Castle, want to marry young Miss? And he has served you before this. So perhaps we can betroth young Miss to him. Maybe he would help us for the sake of our past relationship. And Black Moon Castle would be equivalent to Master's assets once we become a family." "You have a point. Go, bring Monica here." Wilbur's eyes lit up as he nodded. He had not wanted his daughter to marry Vincent. However, he would no longer object to that marriage as Vincent's status was worthy of his daughter. After a while, Monica reached the room. Monica was a beautiful woman in her early 20s. She wore a gorgeous long dress and a sun hat that noble ladies favored. Her face was covered in heavy makeup, and she was complaining loudly as soon as she arrived. "Dad, why are you betrothing me to Vincent? I don't like that poor boy at all. I won't agree to it. Did you say you're only doing that to take advantage of the benefits, and I wouldn't really be engaged to him?" "Did I say that?" When Wilbur saw that his daughter had exposed him, his old face reddened and his eyes widened. "I could have done whatever I said, but it's different now. Vincent has a huge castle. Do you understand that, castle? Only one person has the right to live in a castle. If you marry him, you'll be its mistress. Aren't you willing to do that? If they have a big bed that's softer than velvet, and if I can eat delicious meals every day and have 10 maids to serve me, and if I can wear nice clothes every day. I can consider it if it's something like that." Monica was a little tempted when she heard that. Then, she added her own request. "Oh, right, there's one more thing. I can marry Vincent, but he can't touch me." Wesley frowned. It was true that Monica was a good-looking woman, but no one could bear her unruly character. She had not married into the family yet, and she considered herself as the mistress. It was as if she was not worried that Vincent would refuse her. Wilbur voiced the same concern as Wesley. Monica, you aren't even married yet, so you should learn to list your requirements appropriately. Otherwise, they might think that we do not possess any nobleman's qualities. That makes sense. Let's lower our requirements. I don't want 10 maids, 2 is enough. The other conditions can't be changed. Monica nodded obediently. Wesley, take Monica to Black Moon Castle and familiarize yourself with the environment. After all, it will be our second home soon. Wilbur sighed in relief when his daughter had agreed to the marriage. His eyes burned with passion when he thought about the fact that Black Moon Castle would soon be in his hands. Master, what if he refuses to marry Miss Monica? Wesley asked. Would they dare to refuse? We have been around for more than 100 years, are we not worthy of them? Wilbur stopped his daydreams. He smiled coldly as he said, I heard that many farms are dissatisfied with Black Moon Castle because of their recruitment plans. If they refuse this marriage, I shall join forces with the nearby farms and send troops to destroy the Black Moon Castle. If they dare to refuse me, then they will have no place at the border. Chapter 51. Sylvan, the Border Count. Fairy Castle, at the border. That was the Border Count's residence. He was the ruler there, and the castle was built behind the barrier wall. The barrier wall was the Holy Dragon Kingdom's easternmost wall. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers and was the first line of defense against the Eastern Thorn Empire. The entire wall was made from bronze tier stone. Scratches from swords and sabers adorned the wall. It was filled with the mottled aura of history. There was a sentry tower every 500 meters and an arrow tower every 1,000 meters. Teams of soldiers in golden armor that was engraved with the dragon god design patrolled on the wall. The border count was named Sylvan. He became a rare platinum-tier powerhouse in the Holy Dragon Kingdom in his 30s and was the #1 sorcerer in the palace. Sylvan's name meant fairy in the ancient Elven language, so he was also known as the Fairies' Count. At that moment, in the fairy castle, there were many flower beds in the courtyard, surrounded by trees. There was a massive fountain in the middle. In a pavilion near the fountain, a platinum-haired middle-aged man, dressed in gorgeous gold-embroidered clothing, sat upright on a round stone chair. He was fiddling with a tea set. Time did not leave any traces on the middle-aged man's face. He was a man, but he had a face that was not inferior to a woman's. His purple pupils and sharp ears indicated his identity as an elf. 2 messengers, a man and a woman, were opposite the middle-aged man. They said their goodbyes. Count Sylvan, we've troubled you for almost 2 months. It's time for us to report back to the Imperial City. You're leaving already? Sylvan's hand continued to fiddle with the. In previous years, His Majesty only sent people here when it was close to the winter, but you're here so early this year. Did something happen in the kingdom that made His Majesty so impatient? Nothing happened in the kingdom, Lord Sylvan, you're overthinking it. As a strong warrior guarding the border, you haven't made any mistake in so many years. So many people praised you for that. His Majesty sent us here early to let us learn about your governance. Don't worry, we'll report the situation here truthfully. His Majesty will be very happy when he hears that you are governing the border so well. The other nobles will also use you as an example. The female messenger had a pleased and graceful smile on her face as she complimented the border count. Is that so? Sylvan glanced at her. His amethyst-like pupils were like a mirror that could see through other people's hearts. I heard that His Majesty hasn't been feeling well recently. The female messenger's body trembled, and her eyes fluttered. His Majesty has been ill recently, perhaps he has overworked himself. His Majesty is not even 70 years old, he will live for a long time. Lord Sylvan, you don't have to worry about him. 70 years old. Well, it's not easy for a human to live to this age. Unlike me, who has the bloodline of an elf, my appearance has not changed since 10 years ago. Life is beautiful because it's short, and I do envy His Majesty sometimes. Sylvan sighed, but at the same time, he also seemed to have mocked himself. The 2 messengers understood what Sylvan meant. The elf was born in the southern elves' forest. Humans populated the Holy Dragon Kingdom. Elves were not only rare, but they were also not welcome. That was also one reason why Sylvan, a dignified platinum-tier mage, was sent to guard the border. Sylvan and His Majesty had always had a bad relationship, it was not a secret. At that time, they had sent the messengers to investigate the situation in advance. Perhaps His Majesty knew that his health was not stable and was afraid that Sylvan would do something odd. The two messengers understood the reason, but they did not dare to say it out loud. I heard that a new force called the Black Moon Castle has risen at the border recently. Then, Sylvan spoke again. Yes, that is true. That castle is really magnificent. But, unfortunately, I only took a glance from outside the wall. If it weren't for the powerful magical beasts guarding the castle, I would have been able to enter it. The male messenger shook his head as he spoke with a regretful look on his face. For such a castle to appear at the border, it means that the border is so well managed that the people there can prosper. Are you very interested in Black Moon Castle, Count Sylvan? I thought that you built the castle. The female messenger tugged at her companion's sleeve. The border count would have known that such a large force had appeared at the border. She had seen Black Moon Castle with her own eyes. It was not something that an ordinary person could build. People said that the family that built Black Moon Castle were poor nobles. So, how could a down-and-out noble suddenly make such a windfall? It would only make sense if Sylvan had commanded it. She had investigated the matter for 2 months after she was at the fairy castle, but unfortunately, she had no results. However, since she was about to leave, she had no choice but to ask about it. That castle has nothing to do with me. Even though I am in charge of the border, I don't know everything. Don't you have to go back and report it? You can go now. Sylvan poured a cup of tea into his cup, put it in front of his nose, and sniffed it. Then we'll take our leave. The female messenger bowed her head respectfully and dragged her male companion, who was about to say something. Black Moon Castle, how interesting. As he watched those two people leave, Sylvan pinched the teacup slightly, and a crack appeared on the top-quality ceramic. The tea in the cup, which was still steaming, was suddenly covered with frost and turned into ice. Nightingale, what do you think about this? He casually threw the frozen teacup away. As soon as he finished speaking, the shadow behind him squirmed. A petite woman in black clothes and a veil slowly appeared. She knelt on one knee. I dare not make any random guesses. It doesn't matter. I've raised you since you were young, you can speak freely. Sylvan looked at his subordinate with a kind expression. The fairy castle controlled tens of thousands of troops. They selected the best among them to form the Shadow Guards to handle matters that ordinary people could not handle. They were at least silver-tier warriors, and Nightingale was the leader of the Shadow Guards. She was only 16 years old, but she was already at the gold tier. Then I'll say it. Black Moon Castle may have been planted by the king to spy on you, Count. We know about every farm at the border. None of them could have built a castle in that short period. Perhaps the king feels uneasy about you being in charge of the border for so long. Sylvan nodded and motioned for Nightingale to continue. In addition, some people in the kingdom have said that the king is old and in poor health, so he has the intention to find a successor for his throne. The king has 3 young princes and a young princess. The border is the farthest from the royal city and has never been under his jurisdiction. The king is afraid that his children will not be able to manage the border, so he sent a messenger to run an inquiry. It may seem like they did it out of concern, but it is actually to defeat us. Nightingale, you have followed me for too long, indeed. Your ability to analyze things is getting stronger. Since you know about this, then you don't need me to teach you what to do next. You can set off for Black Moon Castle. It doesn't matter if the people there are the king's confidants or not, we'll rope him in. Since the king is going to attack the border soon, I can only be forced to return the favor. Sylvan narrowed his eyes, his pupils were filled with deep darkness. Even kings are inhumane wolves. When they need help, the wolf will put on human clothes. When it wears a crown, it will turn around and bite the farmers who had rendered aid. His Majesty is very old now, and he should die. Chapter 52. Monica's arrival. Hey, why are you dragging me? When they left the fairy castle and headed west, the male messenger stared at his female companion, who had kept her hold on him. Shush. The female messenger raised a finger at him as she looked around them. She realized that a well-maintained forest surrounded them. There were no guards there. Then, she lowered her voice and said, Idiot, didn't you feel that the temperature has dropped? Count Sylvan is a fire element platinum tier mage, and he is the best at controlling the temperature. I can feel a murderous aura from his body. If we don't leave quickly, we might not be able to leave at all. The essence of fire-type magic was temperature. Whether to increase or decrease the heat, it would work either way. Therefore, ice magic was also a type of fire magic. Are you sure? Why didn't I feel it? The male messenger looked puzzled. That's why you should cultivate properly. The female messenger flicked her companion's forehead. If you were like me, a bronze-tier warrior who cultivates the fire element, you definitely wouldn't say such things. The male messenger cried out in pain as he held his forehead and asked, "But, why did Count Sylvan suddenly want to kill us? Did we say something wrong? Well, do you know about the grudge between Count Sylvan and His Majesty?" "Of course I know about that. I'm a messenger, there is nothing in the kingdom that I don't know. Back when His Majesty was still a prince, he and Count Sylvan were very good friends. He even married his younger sister to His Majesty, the former queen. Unfortunately, the queen died before she had any children. Count Sylvan quarreled with His Majesty over this matter and was sent to the border." The male messenger looked puzzled. Then, he spoke confidently. From then onward, Count Sylvan did not get along with His Majesty. Apart from any important meetings, Count Sylvan never went to the royal city. His Majesty would only send people there when it was close to winter. Sylvan's sister, Avril, was a half-elf. When the king married Queen Avril, it had caused a stir in the kingdom. After all, the Holy Dragon Kingdom did not have a precedent for the non-human queen. Nevertheless, the king resisted the public's objections. He dragged all the nobles who opposed him and beat them up. Unfortunately, their happy times did not last long. Queen Avril fell ill and died in less than 2 years. However, the king did not hold a funeral for her. Many people discussed it, but they did not come to a conclusion. After a long time, the matter was considered settled. Even as a messenger, he did not know the secret behind that, and he did not want to know. The most important rule of a messenger: know what one must know, do not inquire about things one should not know. Curiosity killed the cat. The more he knew, the more dangerous it would be for him. The female messenger said, "Since you know the relationship between His Majesty and the border count, you should know what it means to have an extra castle on the border. There used to be only the fairy castle. And now, the Black Moon Castle has risen, and they are recruiting men. It had threatened the Count's authority. I suspect that the owner of this Black Moon Castle is His Majesty's confidant. I've asked around about the Black Moon Castle owner. It belongs to a down-and-out baron named Edward. How is he related to the king?" "You're an idiot, I've already told you. A down-and-out baron can't build a castle so quickly. There has to be someone behind him. So why don't we make a bet? Let's bet 1 gold coin to see if this baron is His Majesty's man." "Let's bet on that." The two of them made a bet and headed toward the direction of Black Moon Castle together. As he faced his companion, who was smiling proudly, he said, "You're going to lose for sure." The male messenger looked helpless as he said softly, "How can I be wrong? Even though I don't know how a down-and-out baron can rise to power so suddenly, I know that it has nothing to do with the king. Why don't you believe me?" At the Black Moon Castle, a long fleet of carriages had arrived at the gate. "Young miss, we've arrived at Black Moon Castle." Wesley rode his horse to the first carriage and waved his hand. The 4 accompanying guards immediately took out a wooden stand from the back and placed it at the carriage door. "This is Blackmoon Castle? It does look good." A hand in a light muslin pulled the curtain open. Monica, who was in a boat-shaped hat, placed her hand onto Wesley's arm. Then, she walked down the stairs gently with his help and stood at the entrance. She stared at the building. Even though she was calm, Monica's peach blossom eyes were staring at the walls of Black Moon Castle. Her breathing was heavy. Dark jade stones. The entire wall was made of dark jade stones. Wilbur's family traded ores, medicinal herbs, and magical beasts. As the family's young miss, Monica knew a lot about ores. She knew how many gold coins it would cost to build a wall of dark jade stone that spanned 10 kilometers. Monica smiled as she thought about how she would be the castle's mistress. It seemed like a worthy place for her. 4 guards trailed behind Monica, and they also stared at the castle. They looked like country bumpkins who had entered the city. "This is Black Moon Castle. It's just like the rumors, it's really majestic. Master's Manor isn't even half the size of this place, right? The walls are even made of black jade stones. I heard that there's a rainbow phoenix chicken that's even more precious than the pentacolor fragrant chicken. I wonder if that's true? If we can live in such a big castle, it'll be enough to brag to other people. Wesley's face was bitter. He had been there once a few months ago. At that time, there was only a wasteland, a chicken farm, and a simple 3-story wooden house. It was nothing like how it had transformed. He even suspected that he had hallucinated about it. At that moment, Wesley had to suppress his feelings when he heard the words around him. Instead, he said, "All right, stop talking. Unload young Miss things from the carriage." "Yes, Sir Wesley." The 4 guards walked to the next 2 carriages and retrieved the things from the inside. There was a dressing table with a bronze mirror, a cabinet filled with clothes, and a big bed covered in velvet. There were also 2 small pillows on the bed. When the guards dismantled it, Monica directed it from the side. "Be careful. My dressing table is very expensive. The lipstick in it is more than you can ever afford. And this bed, don't get it dirty. Velvet can't be washed. I still have to sleep on it at night." As a noble and socialite, Monica was very particular about her living environment. The castle did look good from the outside, but what about the interior? She did not want to be uncomfortable, so she brought her own things with her. "You are a young miss, indeed, you really have a lot of demands." Wesley carried the big bed as sweat beaded on his forehead. He complained in a low voice, "Why aren't the people in Black Moon Castle out here?" Boom! As soon as he said that, Black Moon Castle's gate opened with a loud bang. A group of majestic knights in armor appeared on their ligers. They surrounded Monica and the others. The leader had long sky blue hair. It was List. He looked serious as he asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here? Are you all blind? Can't you see that we are moving things?" Wesley had wanted to say that, but he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. The 10 knights in front of him emitted bronze-tier murderous aura. Even the ligers were enough to scare them. However, Wesley remembered that he was there on behalf of his master, Wilbur List, so he could not be an embarrassment. He immediately held back his fear and puffed out his chest. "Are you a guard with the Black Moon Castle? Go and tell your master that your young master's fiancée, Miss Monica, is here. Tell them to send someone to welcome her." Chapter 53. She's not qualified. "Master Watson, there are a few people outside the castle. One of them is a woman named Monica. She says that she's your fiancée. Would you like to go out and take a look?" 10 minutes later, List stood in the hall on the first floor of Black Moon Castle and spoke to his master. Watson was in front of him. He wore a small black shirt. He frowned. His fiancée? How could he have a fiancée? He had never even heard of the name Monica. Did his father, Edward, hide it from him? It should not be the case. Watson phrased his words carefully. "List, are you sure it's my fiancée? They said Black Moon Castle's young master's fiancée. Since you are the young master here, so." List was also a little lost. The woman named Monica looked almost 20 years old, while Watson was only a little over 10 years old. The woman was 10 years older than the man. That seemed like a May to December relationship, and it made him feel strange. When he saw Watson's blank expression, he felt even weirder. However, did Black Moon Castle have another young master other than Watson? Perhaps the people outside were liars. It was a ruse to covet the Black Moon Castle's properties and to con them for a place to stay and food to eat. List said, "Young Master Watson, I think the people outside might be swindlers. If you don't want to meet them, I can chase them away." "Forget it, let's meet them." Outside the Black Moon Castle, the 9 remaining guards stayed on their ligers, and they stared at the people in front of them. "If I'm not mistaken, these people are from Wilbur List Manor. The farm where I previously worked had business dealings with them. I've seen their young miss once, and she looks just like this woman in front of me." A guard said in a low voice. "The name Monica is the same as the Wilbur List Manor's daughter." "I've heard of her too," another guard said. The Wilbur List Manor was one of the most famous manors on the border. It was very popular within dozens of kilometers radius. They had never thought that their daughter was actually young Master Watson's fiancée. If it were any other day, they would definitely leave their mounts and be courteous when they saw people of the Wilbur List Manor. However, they no longer respected people from that manor. They were nothing. Was it anything compared to Black Moon Castle, where one could find a rainbow phoenix chicken and powerful magical beasts that guarded it? Wilbur List Manor was one of the biggest manors around, and yet they will need to send their young miss for a marriage alliance. "Miss Monica, it's been so long, but Vincent hasn't come out yet. Do you think that it's because he doesn't want to see you?" Wesley glanced at the guard in front of him before he walked toward Monica and asked carefully. When he had left a few months previously, Vincent had said that he would settle the score with Wilbur List Manor and that he would never marry their young miss. If Vincent chose not to come out, then Wilbur List Manor would lose respect in front of everyone, and Wesley would get punished. However, Wesley hoped that Vincent would not come out as it would be very awkward if they were to meet again. "You fool! Who am I? How would he dare not to come out?" Monica raised her right hand arrogantly, which was in a light gauze glove, and knocked on Wesley's head. "The next time you say such disheartening words again, I will tell father to break your legs." Wesley shrank his neck. He did not dare to reply to her. At that moment, there was a commotion at the Black Moon Castle entrance. Watson had walked out of the castle behind List. "Greetings, young Master Watson." The guards at the entrance turned, unmounted their ligers and knelt respectfully to Watson. "You're the one who claimed to be my fiancé?" Watson stared at Monica with narrowed eyes. When he saw Wesley, he understood what had happened. Wesley was the man who had brought men to snatch his pentacolor fragrant chicken, but he had managed to chase him away. It was evident they wanted his older brother, Vincent, and not him. "Miss, this is Black Moon Castle's 8th child, and Vincent's younger brother," Wesley explained to Monica. Wesley remembered the day Watson defeated him and stripped him off his clothes. His face was burning hot, and the humiliating scene made him grit his teeth. Since it's not Vincent, then there's nothing more to say. The arrogant expression on Monica's face did not change. "I don't want to waste time with you. Go and get your master and Vincent before my patience is exhausted. A gentleman should not make a lady wait." "Are you talking to me?" Watson curled his lips. "You'd better leave. Eldest brother won't come out and see you." The master of Wilbur List Manor had ignored his eldest brother, and he had also wanted to snatch their property, one that they needed for their livelihood. However, he must have wanted to revisit the past when he saw Black Moon Castle's progress. Was there such a good thing? His eldest brother had said that he did not like that young lady. He had proposed to her so that their family could have a better life. Even though Watson had only interacted with her for a short while, he thought she was unruly and annoying. "What do you mean? It was not easy for me to move my things from my bedroom to here. You want me to leave?" Monica's expression changed. She walked toward Watson and raised her hand to slap his cheek. "As a down-and-out baron, it seems that you do not know much about etiquette. I will teach you a lesson now." However, List, who stood beside her, managed to grab her hand before her palm could land on Watson's face. A young lady should not hit someone without so much as a word. "Do I need you to give me a lesson?" Monica's eyes widened as she struggled. "You are a servant, and you attacked your master. Wesley, kill this guard for me." List released his grip and pushed her. Monica stumbled backward until she fell onto the ground. She frowned in pain. Her gorgeous dress was covered in dust, and she looked very pathetic. However, List still looked polite. "Young miss, you are not the master of Black Moon Castle yet. You are not one now, and you will never be one in the future. So, I don't need to listen to you. How dare you attack Miss Monica? Do you want to die?" Wesley gritted his teeth and led his 4 aides to attack. However, before they could draw their swords, the 9 guards who knelt at Watson's feet stood up in unison. They waved their fists and knocked Wesley and the others to the ground. It was all thanks to the training plan that Watson had set up over the past few days. The 9 guards only needed to raise their legs and jump for a split second. Poor Wesley and the others had yet to draw their weapons when they were punched in the chest. They laid on the ground with blood all over their faces as their cheeks made contact with the ground. A green wind element battle spirit appeared on Wesley's body. However, as soon as it came into contact with the guards, the battle spirit shattered. He was only an Iron Tier warrior. He had no way to fight back against a Bronze Tier warrior. Furthermore, his opponent was not an ordinary Bronze Tier warrior. Wesley knew that the other party did not use battle spirit. His strength alone was more than 3,000 caddies. It had caused his bones to creak. "Wesley, I never thought that we would meet again in such a manner. Go back and tell your master not to allow Miss Monica to call herself my brother's fiancée anymore. She is not worthy, she is not qualified for Black Moon Castle." Watson glanced at the disheveled Wesley as if he was looking at a dog that had fallen into a mud pit. Then, he turned around with a smile and walked into Black Moon Castle. "Let's go." The guards let go of Wesley and his companions, then, they spat in disdain. Then, they trailed behind List and slowly returned to Black Moon Castle. They did not say a single word to Wesley. Those people were too weak. They might have been their match if it were a couple of months ago, but those people did not even stir their desire to fight. Chapter 54. A Joint Assassination. Did Black Moon Castle's eighth child really say that? They were in Wilbur List Manor. Wilbur threw all the things in his hand onto the floor. The corners of his eyes twitched, and his face was as gloomy as the dark clouds in the sky. Be starred. We're not qualified for them? You're not worthy to be Vincent's fiancé? They may be lucky, but they are still part of a poor baron's family. What resources do they have? How dare they talk like that? Had I been too polite with them? Wesley and a group of guards knelt in front of Wilbur. The things that he threw had hit some of their heads. Blood seeped from their foreheads and dripped onto the ground slowly, but they could only remain silent. Monica was also there. She used her hands to wipe the tears on her face. Her heavy makeup had been ruined. Father, you have to stand up for me. I finally made up my mind to be the Black Moon Castle's mistress, but this is how they treat me. They threw away the things that I brought there and even sent people to beat me up. They are a bunch of barbarians. I don't want to go there anymore. Father, you have to send people to kill those who bullied me. They are insulting you, and they did not give our family any respect. Half a day had passed since Monica had gone to Black Moon Castle. She had returned to the manor under Wesley's protection, and she immediately complained to her father. Wilbur got even angrier when he saw his daughter's appearance. His bloodshot eyes and his beard made him look like a lion that was about to devour someone. Wesley, how strong are the Black Moon Castle's guards? Master, I've asked around. Black Moon Castle organized recruitment twice, and they have about 30 people now. They even called themselves Black Moon Knight. Those guards were bronze tier before they were recruited, and now they have a full set of weapons and armor of the same level. With their mounts, I'm afraid we are not their match, Wesley said with difficulty. It was not a secret that the Black Moon Castle had recruited people at the border. Any 10 men from the Black Moon Castle would be able to trounce him. One of them could even fight 10 of Wesley. Even though there were a few hundred men in Wilbur List Manor, they had only 3 bronze tier warriors. The rest were like him or even were not as good as him. It would not be easy to deal with the 30 Black Moon Knights. Furthermore, Watson was not only a silver tier warrior and mage, but he also had a gold tier lion, a magical beast. Master, I think we need to consider this matter from a long-term perspective. If we want to attack Black Moon Castle, we must have a gold tier warrior. In the entire border, only the border count would have such a strong man. Don't you know the border count, Master? Should we ask him for help? Wesley asked weakly. Gold tier warrior. Wilbur fell into deep thought. The person who knew the border count was his sister, but she was only a maid in the count's manor. Therefore, he would not be able to talk to the man. The count would not do anything for the family of a maid. I heard that there is a rainbow phoenix chicken in Black Moon Castle, Wilbur said after he restrained his anger. Perhaps it's true, everyone is talking about it. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I don't know if it's true. Wesley was puzzled. He did not know why his master would ask that question, though he still answered honestly. Black Moon Castle only had a pentacolor fragrant chicken before this. How did they suddenly get a rainbow phoenix chicken? Did they master some cultivation method to upgrade it? Wilbur rolled his eyes as he thought about the profit. Everyone knew that a pentacolor fragrant chicken was hard to come by, but it was not impossible to encounter it in the wild if one were lucky. However, it was quite impossible for one to get a pentacolor fragrant chicken and a rainbow phoenix chicken consecutively. So, Wilbur suspected that someone in Black Moon Castle had mastered a special method to upgrade the pentacolor fragrant chicken. Perhaps they had also gotten the pentacolor fragrant chicken via that method. The border count would have a price, and the cultivation method for a pentacolor fragrant chicken would be worth a mention. If there were such a method and Wilbur could master it, then he could open a pentacolor fragrant chicken farm and be the second Black Moon Castle. At that time, even the border count would have to follow his orders. Black Moon Castle, I was kind enough to betroth Monica to you. If you refuse this marriage, then don't blame me for being rude. Wilbur gritted his teeth and muttered as he waved at Wesley. Go to the nearby manors and get me all the farmers who are upset with Black Moon Castle. I want to talk to them. Also, I want to send a letter to Fairy Castle. I will spend 1,000 gold coins to get the border count to send a gold tier expert to destroy Black Moon Castle in one fell swoop. Even if Black Moon Castle did not have a way to cultivate a pentacolor fragrant chicken, the castle and the pentacolor fragrant chicken were already worth at least 100,000 gold coins. Wilbur knew that it was a good deal. At the Black Moon Castle, Watson, your actions are a little reckless. These people were here for me. Just let me get rid of them. If you do this, Wilbur List Manor will definitely hate you to death. It was dinner time, and the Watson family was at the dining table. Vincent wiped his mouth with a handkerchief as he spoke worriedly. He was cultivating in his room when Monica was there that day. It was already too late when he found out about it. Other than the Watson family, Alan and List were also at the dining table. Wendy was also there. She was dressed in a maid's outfit. She stood behind Watson and helped to serve the food. They were able to eat with Watson and his family. It meant that Watson treated them as his own. It was an honor. Young Master Vincent, don't worry. With our current strength, even if thousands of Iron Tier warriors attacked us, we would still be able to defend against them. List knew the etiquette. He ate without a word. He did not say anything as Alan stuffed the bread into his mouth and said, "Of course, I'm not bragging. We're strong today because of young Master Watson's wisdom and talent. He did not only master fusion magic, but he also has outstanding knowledge." "Alright, stop flattering me." Watson had a strange expression on his face as he said, "Eldest brother, you don't have to worry. If they want to attack Black Moon Castle, then let them come." If Wilbur had dared to attack them, then Watson would make sure that he did not have the chance to go back. When the Black Moon Knights trained, they went to the Misty Forest to capture more than 200 magical beasts. Those beasts were then fused with the Golden Flash. The beast had evolved into a 6-winged golden chimera. Even though it was only a gold tier beast, its strength had far surpassed that of an ordinary gold tier magical beast. "You are right. I will use this silver tier longbow to protect the castle and educate the bad guys." Scarlet took the longbow from her back and waved her fists. Ever since she had obtained the silver tier longbow, it was no longer difficult for her to hunt small animals. Therefore, she was not satisfied with only hunting common animals. Instead, she wanted to place her target on humans. How could shooting small animals be as good as shooting people? Watson thought that his sister had done quite well, and he continued to comfort Vincent, "Eldest brother, after you're done, take a bath and then sleep. Leave the rest to me." When he saw that Watson was so confident, Vincent suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and nodded at his brother. After dinner, Watson returned to his bedroom. Wendy followed him into the room and helped him take off his clothes. Then, she said, "Young master, do you want to take a bath? I can go boil some water now." "That's a good idea." Watson nodded. He was about to say that he had been tired all day and wanted to take a shower to relieve his fatigue. At that moment, he smelled a strange fragrance in the air that he had never smelled before. Only he and Wendy could enter his bedroom, so the strange smell proved that a stranger had been there. That person must be a gold tier expert since he could sneak into the compound without alerting the Golden Flash. Watson's expression turned serious. He was nervous. Chapter 55. Nightingale, the Assassin. "Wendy, we'll talk about the water later. Stand behind me and don't make a move." Watson stretched his hands to protect Wendy behind him. He looked at the large bed in the bedroom, and his expression became serious. "Who's there? Come out." A black shadow appeared on the soft, velvet bed and swayed gently as Watson spoke. The shadow disappeared, and a petite woman in black appeared on the bed. Her collarbone and shoulders were covered with a dark red veil that showed only hints of her snow-white skin. Watson could not tell the woman's age. She wore an inverted triangular veil, and she had short black hair and dark blue eyes. At that moment, her veil swayed gently as she looked at Watson. "It's commendable that you found me so quickly." Her voice was like a bird singing softly, and it was also like a clear spring that flowed between the rocks. It was very pleasant. Gulp. Watson swallowed his saliva. He could tell from the woman's voice that she should not be very old. Unfortunately, she also exuded a fatal sense of threat. Everyone knew that he was a silver tier warrior and mage. Only a gold tier warrior would be able to pose a threat to him. It seemed like the woman was extremely talented, or perhaps she was from a major faction if she could become a gold tier warrior at such a young age. Did Wilbur List Manor hire her as an assassin? Watson thought that was the case, he had only offended them. However, he did not believe they could hire a gold-tier warrior. No matter who she was not a good person since she had hid in someone's bedroom in the middle of the night. Watson rolled his eyes and nudged Wendy with his shoulder. "Wendy, you should go out. I'll have a private chat with this lady." "Young master." Wendy grabbed the corner of Watson's clothes weakly. Her light green eyes were full of gratitude. She knew that Watson said that because he wanted to bear the danger alone. He did not want her to get hurt. As a maid, her duty was to guard the young master and not let him get hurt. Unfortunately, she did not have that ability. Wendy felt powerless and somewhat ashamed. If she were a powerful warrior, she would be able to defend Watson. "Go." Watson's tone was urgent. Wendy gritted her teeth and quickly pushed the door open and left. She would be a burden if she were to stay there. She might as well go and get help. Then, Watson closed the door and tidied his clothes. He pretended to be calm and said, "Who are you and why are you in my bedroom?" When Wendy left, the woman did not stop her. Watson felt that she would not kill him immediately, he could communicate with her. Nightingale looked at Watson with great interest. She was Lord Sylvan's Shadow Guard's leader, and she was one of the best gold-tier warriors. She had killed many people, so her body had a strong murderous aura. A gold-tier warrior would feel uneasy when they had to face her, let alone a silver-tier warrior. It was already good enough that he did not kneel in front of her. The young man looked only a little over 10 years old, but he could resist the pressure from her body. His expression was very calm, and there was a maturity in his eyes that did not belong to someone his age. That piqued her interest. Nightingale pondered as she shook her calves. Then her body melted into the darkness before she appeared from the shadows and stroked Watson's neck with her slender fingers. "My name is Nightingale, and I am from Fairy Castle. I am under orders to kill you." The warm wind blew as those words entered Watson's ears gently, they made him shudder. Teleportation. That woman was a gold-tier warrior, indeed. In that world, gold-tier warriors were considered elites. If combat aura represented a silver-tier warrior, then the representation of a gold-tier warrior was the ability to break through space to perform simple short-distance teleportation. Of course, the teleportation distance would depend on the warrior's strength, from several meters to 100 meters. Nightingale had been less than 10 meters away from him, and then she had appeared behind him. She was not an ordinary gold-tier warrior. Those views flashed through Watson's mind in an instant. When he felt Nightingale's hand on his Adam's apple, he calmed down instead. "Miss Nightingale, I don't think I've aggravated the Fairy Castle. If I remember correctly, the Fairy Castle is the Border Count's residence. Why would such a prominent figure send someone to assassinate me? You'll have to ask yourself that." Nightingale's pleasant voice echoed again. "I don't understand. Can you explain more clearly? I'll ask the questions, and you'll answer them. You're the king's confidant, right? His Majesty sent you here and gave you many resources to build Black Moon Castle at the border. Isn't that right, the king? I built Black Moon Castle by myself. What does it have anything to do with the king? Since you don't know the king, then where did you get the large amount of bronze-tier ores used to build the castle and the Rainbow Phoenix chicken in your house? I used fusion magic to create them." "Fusion magic?" Nightingale frowned. As a shadow guard, she had a unique interrogation method. She could judge whether a person was lying based on their heartbeat and body temperature. That was also the reason she placed her hand on Watson's artery on his neck. Watson's heartbeat did not increase, and the temperature of his skin did not rise. Therefore, he must have been telling the truth. However, what was fusion magic? She had heard of other magic besides the 6 basic elements, such as spiritual magic and space magic, but she had never heard of fusion magic. Could it be some lost magic? Nightingale was very familiar with magic as she was the platinum-tier mage, Sylvan's subordinate. She knew that there were many countries that specialized in magic in ancient times. They were once glorious, but they eventually died out. Therefore, many strange magic skills were lost in the long river of history. They were called lost magic, and the magic that was passed down was only the tip of the iceberg. Your words are not enough to make me trust you. What is fusion magic? Where did it come from? It's a long story. It was a snowy winter, and an old man fainted in front of our house. I moved this old man into the house. To thank me, he taught me fusion magic. Watson felt the killing intent behind him weakened. He raised his hand and moved Nightingale's petite hand away from his neck. I've said what I needed to say. Do you have any questions? His heart pounded, and the temperature on his body rose by 1 degree. The boy had lied. Nightingale frowned, but she did not care. Except for the origin of the fusion magic, everything else sounded normal. Sylvan did not send her there to kill the boy. She only needed to determine his identity. If the king had sent Watson, then she should threaten him and turn him into Lord Sylvan's subordinate. The situation was beyond Nightingale's understanding. Watson was not the king's man, and he said that he had built this castle with his own strength? What should she do? Nightingale thought it was better if Watson was not the king's spy. It meant that he would more likely join Lord Sylvan's camp. Furthermore, his fusion magic had built a castle in such a short time, so it was obviously magical. I believe that Lord Sylvan, who likes to study magic, would be very interested in this. Nightingale put down her hand as Watson looked at her in surprise. Then, she said, "Are you willing to join the border count and be his follower?" Chapter 56. If you can't beat him, join him. Wendy, you said that someone sneaked into young Master Watson's room and wanted to harm him? List looked serious and nervous. Wendy nodded weakly. Brother, gather the guards to save young Master, quickly. Wendy did not stop from the moment she left Watson's bedroom. Instead, she ran all the way to find her brother. She only trusted the young Master and her brother in the castle. Stand here and don't move. I'm going to find someone now, List said anxiously. He turned around and walked along the corridor. He knocked on the guards' rooms one by one to inform them of the matter. Within a short time, the corridor was filled with 30 bronze-tier guards. Each of them had a serious look on their faces. Someone had snuck into Black Moon Castle without anyone noticing? And this person wants to harm the young Master. What are we waiting for? Let's go. It was because of Watson that they were able to increase their strength significantly in only 2 short months. If Watson died, who would give them bronze equipment in the future? Who would give them rainbow phoenix chicken eggs? They were the best family at the border. They all liked the young Master. He was young and kind. Wait a moment. If this person could sneak in alone, he must be powerful. We might not be his match. List waved his hand and said, I'll bring the others to save the young Master. At the very least, we must make sure that the criminals do not dare to act rashly. Captain Allen, please go to the farm and bring the gold-tier magical beast that the young Master keeps there. Should we inform the young Master's family about this matter? List recalled that Watson's eldest brother, Vincent, was also a silver-tier warrior. Leave this matter to me. You should also bring the rainbow phoenix chicken here. As for informing the young Master's family, forget about it. The young Master is in danger. If his family is also harmed, how are we going to explain it? Allen and List exchanged a look. Then, they quickly went on their way. They were the only silver-tier warriors in the team, and so everyone looked to them to act. Allen thought it would not be enough only to have the golden flash. Even though the rainbow phoenix chicken did not have much combat power, it was comparable to a silver-tier beast. Plus, it was extremely valuable. Perhaps they could use it as a bargaining chip. Watson's safety was the most important thing. The rest of you, follow me. List did not look at Aaron's departing figure. He waved his hand and led the remaining guards toward Watson's bedroom. Wendy tugged the corners of her skirt and jogged all the way. She did not want to be left behind. With a worried expression on her face, she muttered softly, Young Master, please be safe. Meanwhile, in Watson's bedroom. I see. I didn't expect His Majesty to have such a grudge with the border count. Watson sat leisurely on the bed. He took a basket from the headboard. There were a few boiled rainbow phoenix chicken eggs in it. Do you want one? Watson asked Nightingale, who sat next to him with her legs crossed. Nightingale had asked him if he wanted to join the Count's camp, but Watson did not answer her. Instead, he asked for the reason the Count wanted him. Nightingale told him about the feud between the border Count and the king. Back then, the border Count had helped His Majesty ascend the throne. He even betrothed his sister to the king. However, the Count's sister had died a few years after she became the queen. Afterward, the king had banished the Count to the border and never spoke to him again. After he heard Nightingale's tale, Watson could guess the reason for her visit. A castle had appeared so suddenly at the border, and the border Count was confused about that. So, he thought that the king had sent Watson as a spy. After all, he did build a castle in only a few short months. Only those from the royal family could have done it. No other nobleman could have achieved the same thing. Watson felt odd. He did not expect that his castle would attract the attention of someone like the border count. It seemed like the count had such strong control over the border and also many spies. Of course, Watson did not regret it. He had made plans to expand rapidly. He knew he would have to face the border count eventually anyway. It was an excellent opportunity as any. At least, Nightingale was there with good intentions. It did not matter if he used it to flatter the border count. This is a rainbow phoenix chicken egg? Nightingale looked at the egg that Watson handed to her. Her expression changed. Before she snuck into the castle, she did some research about the men there and their strength. That was why she could sneak in so easily. Of course, that was because she was a gold-tier warrior and had the ability to teleport. She knew that the family had rainbow phoenix chicken eggs, but she did not expect Watson to give one to her so easily. Furthermore, they were all cooked. It seemed that Watson had eaten it regularly. That's right, these are rainbow phoenix chicken eggs. I usually eat them as snacks. Watson nodded. He had eaten those eggs for several months. They were no longer much help to him. However, those eggs were delicious. They had a milky fragrance and a strange texture. He would eat two after he exercised to relieve his tiredness. Wendy would usually leave them by the bed for him. She knew that he would always eat one before he went to sleep. Watson, you haven't answered my question. Do you want to join Lord Sylvan's army? Nightingale peeled the colorful and tender egg, lifted her veil, and put it into her mouth. Her pink lips collided with the egg white. It looked very tempting. Watson took another look and asked, do I still have a choice? Nightingale had told him about the feud between the border count and the king. She was not afraid that he would spread the news, so she definitely would not let him go. He could not beat the border count, and even he was not Nightingale's match. Well, if he could not beat him, then he could only join him. Unfortunately, you have no choice. But please rest assured, you are a smart man and have mastered magic. The border count will definitely give you an important position. You should know that whoever passes the nobleman test will be awarded the title of nobility. It is a difficult examination, but Lord Sylvan has a certain reputation in the kingdom. He can talk to the examiners. Therefore, it's not difficult for him to let you pass the examination and become a baron. Then, your family won't have to worry about losing the title of nobility. Nightingale stuffed the egg into her mouth as she glanced at him. Her eyes narrowed into beautiful crescent moons. She licked her delicate red lips and said, it is as I expected of the rainbow phoenix chicken eggs. They're so delicious. Give me two more. They were really tasty. Watson shrugged and handed two more eggs to Nightingale. The price of joining the border count was to oppose the king. No matter how he thought about it, he was at a disadvantage. He could only pretend to be courteous with the count and use the improve his strength so that he could defend himself when the king attacked them. He did not expect the lady assassin to be a food enthusiast. After a while, she had finished all the 5 rainbow phoenix eggs in the basket. She even wiped her mouth and reached her hand toward Watson. Is there any more? Give me some more. Before Watson could answer, the door flew open with a bang. List led about 20 guards to rush into the room. When they saw Nightingale reach out toward Watson, they thought that she would harm their young master, so they roared angrily. Stop, don't hurt young Master Watson. List reacted swiftly. The pair of green wings on his back spread open. The feathers on them were like grass that swayed in the wind. They shot out and connected into green vines in the air as they moved toward Nightingale from 3 different directions. Chapter 57, The Shocked Nightingale. Fighting technique, triangular vine strangulation. List shouted. The emerald vines formed by his combat aura were like snakes. Like mages, the warriors in that world also had skills. They were called fighting techniques, which usually corresponded to the training system. The fighting technique that List had used was a bronze tier fighting technique. However, the effects of various levels of fighting techniques were different. Iron tier fighting techniques could only emit a sword aura with lethality of several meters. Bronze tier fighting techniques could transform the shape of their fighting aura into plants or animals. Silver tier fighting techniques were even more powerful. They could summon wings of fighting aura to appear on their back. Unfortunately, Watson was not familiar with anything higher than that. Watson opened his mouth as his eyes followed List's movements. However, before he could say anything, Nightingale had already raised her head, withdrew her palm, and flicked it at List. Bang! List's combat aura transformed into 3 vines with a muffled sound, which then shattered in the air. List's body shook and his combat aura wings dissipated. He took a few steps backward, but Nightingale's body did not move at all. Then, she withdrew her slender right hand slowly. Then, the other guards snapped back to their senses. One by one, they held the weapons to their waists. They were ready to attack Nightingale. They knew that the assassin who had infiltrated Black Moon Castle would be powerful, but they did not expect that they would be so overpowering. List was already a silver tier warrior, and with the support of a bronze tier fighting technique, his attacks were comparable to warriors of the same tier. He might not be able to withstand it, but Nightingale could resolve it quickly. That was in line with their understanding of gold tier warriors. Let go of young Master Watson. If you think you're so capable, then come at us. The guards roared as they rushed toward Nightingale. Then, Watson reacted. He waved his hand. Wait, don't panic. Miss Nightingale is not our enemy. Young Master Watson, are you sure? List rubbed his sore shoulders. He was a little suspicious, and his eyes flashed with confusion. Did Wendy not ask for their help because an assassin had taken control of their young master? It seemed like the situation was not what he had thought. Nevertheless, the fact that young Master Watson had stopped them from attacking Nightingale was the best proof they needed. It was not only List, the other guards were also a little confused. They stopped in their tracks, and their hands that held their weapon also slowed. At that moment, a low roar echoed from outside the door. Alan rushed into the room with 2 magical beasts. One of the beasts had 6 golden wings on its body. It was covered in gorgeous feathers and looked like a small lion, and its golden eyes were filled with the dignity of a high-ranking magical beast. The moment the beast appeared, the air in the room shifted. It had grown heavy. The other magical beast was a hen. It was more than 1 meter tall and covered in 7 colored feathers. It had a crown-shaped crest on its head and a long feathered tail on its back. It looked like a cross between a chicken and a phoenix. It looked around the room valiantly. The moment Alan rushed into the room, he immediately shouted, "Who is the assassin? Do you see these 2 magical beasts beside me? One of them is a gold-tier magical beast, and the other is a rainbow phoenix chicken. I'm willing to exchange them for young Master Watson's safety. If you're still not satisfied with this, then I'm willing to hand over all of my assets, such as the armor that I'm wearing now and the Guardian sword." As he spoke, Alan observed Watson. He realized that the young master's expression had looked strange, and his companions in the room had also stared at him with peculiar gazes. There was not the tense atmosphere that he had imagined. It made him a little confused. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" Alan put on a serious expression. "I know. You must think that I am surrendering to the assassin. You're mistaken. I was trying to distract her. As guards, you should be brave enough to face any danger. You shouldn't just stand there and do nothing. As young Master Watson's most loyal servants, if it were me, I would definitely raise my sword at the first moment. I swear that I won't let anyone who threatens the young master go. If you want to attack the young master, then you'll have to step over my dead body first." Aaron spoke earnestly, but he did feel anxious. The assassin must be a gold-tier warrior since they managed to infiltrate the Black Moon Castle. He might not be able to fight them. Even though he needed to protect the young master, he had to consider his strength as well. That way, even if the young master died, he would still be able to live. He was not afraid of death, he only wanted to maximize the benefits. The other guards covered their faces after they heard his words. They looked embarrassed to stand next to him. Alan had wanted to give up all of his assets, so his words were really not convincing. Watson looked at Alan and shook his head. The man had usually looked serious, so he did not expect him to be a clown. He said, "Well, you don't have to be so worried. Nightingale is the border count's subordinate. She's here with his goodwill." Watson explained Nightingale's identity and the content of their conversation in 10 minutes. He indicated that he would join the count. All the guards were relieved when they heard that. If it were possible, they would not want to be enemies with gold-tier warriors. They also admired Watson's courage. He had managed to face Nightingale with calmness even though he did not know who she was, and he also managed to make her reveal her background. That was not something a 10-year-old child could have done. Furthermore, they noticed how Nightingale continued to ask Watson for rainbow phoenix chicken eggs as he explained the situation to them. Watson had grown a little impatient. They sighed. Their young master was really bold. He had dared to treat a gold-tier master so casually. That had to be the confidence of a genius. "I'm sorry, Miss Nightingale. I've offended you just now," Liszt said. He was relieved and happy when he realized that the border count had sent Nightingale. She was not there to assassinate Watson. He did not expect such a big shot like the border count to notice their young master and even recruit him as his subordinate. What did that mean? It must have meant that the young master had extraordinary talent. Black Moon Castle would have a better development at the border if they had the border count's support. "It's okay. I didn't reveal my identity," Nightingale replied as she observed the guards. She knew that Black Moon Castle was rich and powerful and that the family had hired many bronze-tier guards. There were also 2 high-quality magical beasts in the castle. However, she did not expect that those bronze-tier guards would have a complete set of bronze-tier armor and weapons, even she was not so well equipped. The guards emitted an aura that no ordinary person could have. Other than the shadow guards, she was sure that none of the other border count's subordinates was that strong. It was hard to imagine that such an elite force had appeared in a new and rising power. That made her even more curious about Watson. Did Watson have other secrets besides the fusion magic? Nightingale looked at Watson with a profound glance. She felt that the young man might be more capable than she thought. He was far from simple. Chapter 58. Conditions You Can't Refuse. That night, Watson introduced Nightingale to his family. They were at the dinner table. Edward and Catherine were very enthusiastic when they heard about Nightingale's background. They asked Wendy to cook more rainbow phoenix chicken eggs for Nightingale. The eldest brother, Vincent, looked at Nightingale a few more times with a serious expression. He heard that she had some conflicts with the guards after she had snuck into the castle. However, no one mentioned it to him. He knew that they did that because they wanted to protect him, but he still felt uncomfortable. Nightingale was not only a member of the Shadow Guards, but she was also an assassin. What if something had happened to Watson? As he thought about that, he sat up straight and turned to Watson, who sat next to him. He said, "Watson, the next time something like this happens, I hope that you won't hide it from me." Watson gave him a wry smile and said, "I won't." He did not mean to hide it from his brother. It was the guards who had made that decision. On the other hand, Scarlet had acted oddly with Nightingale. She seemed to be on her guard, but at the same time, she also seemed to be dissatisfied. She pouted. Scarlet looked down at her flat chest and then at Nightingale's full bosom. She whispered, "Forget about Wendy. Why is there another one here?" She had always been Watson's eldest sister. She felt as if her cute little brother was about to be snatched away. "I didn't expect that the Black Moon Castle had already attracted the border guard's attention. But, Watson, I have to say, you handled this matter very well." Edward used a knife and fork to peel a rainbow phoenix egg on his plate as he said softly, "I have been very worried about your future since you are the youngest in the family. However, your ability and maturity has reassured me. I want to wait a few more years until you're 13 or 14 years old. You'll be able to participate in the kingdom's noble assessment and become a real baron. Your mother and I also trust that you'd take care of the family's affairs." Edward's eyes lit up as he thought of something. With Miss Nightingale's guarantee, Watson will definitely become a baron. I want to take advantage of my good health to have a few more children with Catherine. Perhaps the Gary family can become a great noble family at the border in the future. This is partly because of Watson and also because he had inherited my excellent genes. Catherine rolled her eyes at him. What inheritance? What advantages do you have? If you want to say that, then Watson inherited that from me. Then, Catherine turned her head and smiled brightly at Nightingale. That smile did not mean respect for a strong person, but it was how a mother-in-law would look at her future daughter-in-law. Even though Watson was still very young and was not even at an age where they would discuss marriage, she still had to prepare for it. They had many children in the family. They would have to pawn their items if they wanted to discuss marriages for all of them. Furthermore, it was likely that Watson would not stand a chance. However, they had 2 new ladies in the castle, and Catherine thought that both of them were pretty good. So it was time to make some plans for Watson. Wendy was Liszt's sister. In terms of status, she was not worthy of Watson. However, in the tradition of the nobles, personal maids had to do housework and sleep with their master. In Catherine's eyes, Wendy, who was the same age as Watson, had already been destined to be Watson's. As for Nightingale, she was from Fairy Castle. If she were with Watson, then the Gary family would be able to build a relationship with the border count. Of course, Nightingale, who had taken off her veil, looked to be around 15 or 16 years old. She was older than Watson, so the two of them might not be suited for each other. Then, Catherine thought of her eldest son, Vincent. She would be good for him. When she thought about that, Catherine's attitude toward Nightingale became more enthusiastic. After the meal, everyone had already learned Nightingale's background. Her parents also agreed with the conditions that she had brought. The guards no longer targeted Nightingale. They only looked at her curiously and sighed when they thought about how she was the border count's subordinate. She was so young, and she was already a gold-tier warrior while they were only bronze-tier warriors. They felt very ashamed. After the meal, Watson wiped his mouth elegantly with a handkerchief. Then, he said, "Miss Nightingale, if you're not in a hurry to go back and report to the border count, I think you should stay here for a while. Of course, we will provide for you while you are here. However, there's a small price to pay." "What is it?" Nightingale asked. "I would like you to help me train my guards, the ones who fought you just now, until your return to Fairy Castle. During this period, if you can help one of the guards to advance successfully, I'll give you silver-tier equipment. And if you can help everyone advance, then I'll give you a full set of gold-tier equipment, including a mount. What do you think of this condition?" That was an irresistible offer. Nightingale thought about it carefully and put a peeled rainbow phoenix chicken egg into her mouth. Then, she smiled charmingly. "Lord Sylvan didn't set a time limit for me to stay here. I think I can linger for at least a month. Your offer is very generous, indeed." "Very well, I agree. However, I want to add one more term. Give me at least 10 rainbow phoenix chicken eggs every day." Praise the fairy. That was the best thing she had ever eaten. Even the border count did not raise magical beasts of that quality. However, she felt that her strength had improved slowly. If she were not worried that the rainbow phoenix chicken could not lay too many eggs daily, she would want to have 100 eggs every day. As the border count's subordinate, Nightingale was very curious about Black Moon Castle's real strength. Besides the rainbow phoenix chicken eggs, she stayed to gather information. She was also interested in Watson's so-called fusion magic. Since he could equip the guards at the castle with bronze-tier weapons and armor, it meant that Watson's magic was effortless to activate. It could not only fuse with magical beasts, but it could also fuse with armor and ores. Who knew there was such a magical skill in the world? Watson also smiled in satisfaction. Nightingale was a gold-tier elite. She was the strongest person he had ever met. Even though the guards at the castle had improved their strength, it was still not enough. The training program he had developed was only effective for the short term, but Nightingale was a different story. The experience shared by a gold-tier warrior would be beneficial. He could also learn a lot from her. At the same time, he did not know much about the border count. He could use that period to deepen his friendship with Nightingale and get some helpful information from her. Most importantly, he knew that the owners of the nearby farms were unhappy with how quickly Black Moon Castle had expanded. Since Nightingale was there, they would not be able to invade his castle even if they joined forces and had a gold-tier master with them. Watson and Nightingale looked at each other maliciously, but their faces remained elegant. Wilbur List Manor. Wilbur sat in the hall. He was surrounded by more than a dozen chairs. There were many well-dressed people with him. They were owners from nearby farms. Most of them were unhappy with Watson's unfettered expansion. Wilbur's face was gloomy as he looked at the people there. "I believe you all know why you're here. This morning, Black Moon Castle rejected my daughter Monica's betrothal. This is not only an insult to me but also a slap to my family's face. I believe all of you must have the same thought. Black Moon Castle thinks nothing of us, and they are full of malice. I know that you won't sit idly by and let them continue so arrogantly." All the farm owners' lips twitched when they heard that. It was true that they did not like Watson, but they were not as shameless as Wilbur. He had wanted to use his daughter to build a relationship with Black Moon Castle, and they were furious when they chased away. However, there was no need to say such words to him. When they heard Wilder's words, several farm owners spoke one after another. It's one thing for Black Moon Castle to recruit guards, but now they're recruiting farmers. They're not giving us a way out. Without these people, how are we going to survive the cold winter? I'm willing to send 200 people to attack the Black Moon Castle. Another person said, "We don't have many people on our farm," and more than half of them had joined Black Moon Castle. Therefore, I can only send 100 people. If we don't have enough people, perhaps we can combine our resources and hire a few elites. We can assassinate the master of Black Moon Castle. Coincidentally, I know a silver-tier bounty mage from Monty Town. He is good at these types of problems, and he has a fair price too. Only 100 gold coins for an attack. Chapter 59. Fulson, the silver-tier mage. Monty Town. As one of the top cities on the border, Monty Town had 2 gates, one on the east and one on the west, and a huge green wall that covered dozens of kilometers. A white flag on the wall fluttered in the wind. It was embroidered with the silhouette of a goshawk. Even though Monty Town was a city in the Holy Dragon Kingdom, it had a unique belief system. The people there believed in the great elf Barbatos, who represented the wind god and advocated freedom and equality. It did not matter if one were an adventurer, a commoner, or a noble. One would receive the same fair treatment in Monty Town. Therefore, an endless stream of merchants would come and go to the town every day. There were only 2 other towns comparable to Monty Town at the border. One was the Fairy Town near the Fairy Castle, and the other was Torch Town in the south. At that moment, outside the tower that housed the Mage Guild near Monty Town's eastern gate, Fulson shook his sea blue robe and played with a silver metal plate that hung on his neck. The metal plate was made of rare and precious arcane silver, and there was a slim staff engraved on it. The color of one's robe symbolized attributes, and the metal plate symbolized strength. It signified Fulson as a silver-tier water elemental mage. The annual assessment is over, and I'm still a silver-tier mage this year. It's a pity. I found a mysterious relic in the misty forest some time ago, and I got half a gold-tier magic scroll from it. If I can comprehend it fully, I might be able to become a gold-tier mage in 3 years. No, 2 years if I'm quick. Then, I will no longer only be an elder in the Mage Guild, but a vice president. The Mage Guild was an official organization that recorded every mage in the kingdom. Once they were registered in it, they would receive a card that symbolized their status and be given an elder or vice president position. They also get to enjoy a salary like the nobleman. Silver-tier mages could become elders in the Mage Guild and receive 10 gold coins a month. They only needed to spend 2 days a week to teach the new mages in the guild. Of course, 10 gold coins a month was not enough for a powerful mage to do anything. A good magic staff made of elven tree branches or stained with the blood of an Asian dragon would cost several thousand gold coins, and an ancient magic book would cost at least 1,000 gold coins. Unfortunately, they could only get 10 gold coins a month. Even if he worked hard for 10 years, he could not afford those items. Therefore, Fulson was also a bounty hunter. He stood in front of the Mage Guild entrance and sighed. Then, suddenly, his face changed, and he stretched his hand outward. A loud cry echoed from the sky. A black and white owl flew over quickly and landed on his shoulder. Its big round eyes shone brightly, and its body emitted the energy waves of a bronze-tier magical beast. It held an envelope in its mouth. "Haig, you're back. Let's see what you've brought me this time." Haig was the name of the owl. A mage would need time to cast powerful spells. So, they would keep some magical beasts as messengers or guardians. The owl was a bronze-tier owl with strange eyes that could see through the darkness and the wind and grass within a few kilometers. It also could transform into a colossal monster when necessary. Fulson took the letter and saw that Zangwill signed it. It looks like a letter from an old friend. He smiled. Zangwill was a farmer at the border. A few years ago, he had asked him to kill the magical beasts that had escaped from the misty forest during the winter. It was a simple letter, not something that Fulson had guessed. It was not a request for protection in the winter. Instead, it was a plea for him to go to the border to kill the leader of a faction called Black Moon Castle. The letter said that the reward was 100 gold coins, and depending on the situation, there might be an additional rebate as well. There were quite many guards in Black Moon Castle. The mission was a little complicated, but Fulson was allowed to bring companions. The reward for his companions was also 100 gold coins, and the maximum number of people he was allowed to bring was 5. 5 people, 500 gold coins. Zangwill is really generous. This is equivalent to 1/10 of his assets. Fulson rubbed his fingers. A layer of blue water covered the letter. It eroded the envelope until there was no trace left of it. I've never heard of a force called Black Moon Castle at the border. It must have risen in the past 200 months. What a domineering name. Well, a country bumpkin can't build a castle. They must have added the word castle to show off their wealth. This is a good assignment. With these additional gold coins, I can buy 2 sets of recovery potions and restore the half-dissolved gold tier magic scroll. He made up his mind. Fulson turned around and returned to the Mage Guild. There was a bounty posted on the guild wall. It was a yellowed paper. There were also others with rewards that ranged from 1 to dozens of gold coins. Some guild members would issue missions that were too difficult for them to complete. If Fulson did not have any personal mission, he would consider taking one from the Mage Guild. Of course, as an elder, he did not need to negotiate with the employer when he did those missions, nor did he need to hand any commission to the Mage Guild. He also had the right to transfer personnel directly. He walked to the front desk and said in a dignified voice, "I want to issue a mission. It requires 5 bronze or iron tier mages, and they must be water element mages. The reward is 1 gold coin each. As an additional reward, I will teach them a bronze tier water element joint attack spell. Elder, please wait a moment. I will get the records of all water elemental mages in the guild for you." The beautiful lady behind the counter responded respectfully. She retrieved a stack of yellowish goatskin parchment from under the table and spread it in front of Fulson. The information of each mage was recorded on it. Soon, Fulson selected 5 mages and asked the lady to bring them to him. Zangwill's reward was 100 gold coins per person. He had hoped that Fulson would find a reliable partner, but the mage only wanted to keep the money for himself. The 5 chosen mages, 3 men and 2 women, were all under 30 years old and wore corresponding strength badges. The men were bronze tier mages, and 2 women were iron tier mages. At that moment, they were a little nervous and excited when they gathered together. It was an honor to be assigned to do a mission by an elder. I'm going to the border to assassinate the leader of a force called Black Moon Castle. It is about 2 days from Monty Town, and the exact location is, well, you're all from the border, so you're more familiar with that place. That's why I chose you. The god of magic said that only a battle can transform a mage. So I hope you can all gain something from this mission. Fulson drew a triangle on his chest with his hand. His tone was full of charm, an indication that there was no danger in that mission. He did not feel any threat because Zangwill had made it very clear in the letter. The leader of Black Moon Castle was only a silver tier warrior. A silver tier warrior would not be able to withstand a single blow from a silver tier mage. Yes, Elder Fulson, please rest assured, we will not disappoint you, the young men and women answered hurriedly. The beautiful woman with long brown hair draped behind her back and an oval face frowned as she muttered softly. The location that Elder Fulson described is my home, but I have never heard of a Black Moon Castle. Could it be a fluke, or has a new faction stood close to my home? Chapter 60. Teaching Dark Combat Aura. Wilbur List Manor. One could hear the sound of owl wings flapped in the wind. The strange-eyed owl flew in a graceful arc and landed in the hall at a breakneck speed. There was an envelope in its beak. There were more than a dozen farm owners in the hall. One of them was a middle-aged man with fiery red hair and a beard. He reached out and took the envelope from the owl's beak. He placed a small dried fish in a copper bowl and put it in front of the owl. When the owl lowered its head and started to pick at the dried fish in the bowl, the red-haired middle-aged man turned his head and smiled at the people in the hall. "This is a bronze-tier owl, and it is also my old friend, Fulson's beloved pet. It loves dried fish. If you feed it once, it will allow you to pet its head. You will definitely fall in love with this feeling." Zangwill opened the envelope and finished reading the letter, then, he smiled. Fulson said that they would arrive the day after tomorrow. He brought 3 bronze tier and 2 iron tier mages. In addition to that, he is a silver tier mage. He has a method to boost his spell to a gold tier spell temporarily. He only needs 1 spell to destroy the Black Moon Castle. Such a powerful team of mages, and we're only spending 500 gold coins on them. Isn't that a good deal? Don't you think so too? Zangwill, what you said makes sense. I am willing to pay a portion of the 500 gold coins. Me, too. The other farmers responded one after another. Their expression had softened. Zangwill was with a silver tier mage and had managed to invite him there. They had to contribute to the cause. It had been 2 days since their last meeting. It would typically take 4 days to travel to Monty Town. However, the strange-eyed owl had completed its round trip in 2 days. That was the power of a bronze-tier magical beast. Master Wilbur, we have gathered everyone in the manor, about 5,000 people. Those who intend to join Black Moon Castle or those who are blinded by benefits have been thrown in prison. A fat farmer turned his gaze toward Wilbur, who sat at the head of the table with a gloomy expression, and said, "I've already equipped the soldiers with the best equipment that I can provide. I guarantee that every 10th person will have a piece of Iron Tier equipment. At the same time, I've also gathered a group of 100 Iron Tier warriors and equipped them with a complete set of Iron Tier equipment. Some of them are even qualified to use Bronze Tier equipment. Among the 100 Iron Tier warriors, there were 20 Bronze Tier warriors. They were the elites from different farms. Many of those guards had wanted to join Black Moon Castle. However, some farmers had promised to give them 100 Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs each if they could break into Black Moon Castle, and they had agreed. The farmers did not even consider if Black Moon Castle had that many Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs. They had a large force, 5,000 men, 100 elites, and a strong team of mages. No one would be able to defeat them. How many men did Black Moon Castle have? Was it 30 men? Or was it 50 men? Those farmers could only think of how the castle would be stained with blood in only 2 days. Well done. I've sent someone to deliver a letter to the border count at the fairy castle yesterday to ask for his help. I believe we'll get a reply soon. Wilbur nodded in satisfaction. As soon as he finished his words, a muffled bang was heard. Everyone there trembled. Even the owl, who had lowered its head to eat the dried fish, raised its crest and widened its round eyes. It had sensed some kind of danger. The ground cracked from the point closest to Wilbur. It revealed a hole that did not belong in that world. A giant palm with flowers, grass and rock veins appeared in midair. It was icy cold, but the words were burning. I have sent Nightingale, a gold tier warrior. She is at the border. You can seek her help. The words burned for a moment before they quickly disappeared. Everyone present, including Wilbur, held their breath. They did not even dare to breathe. They only relaxed after the words had disappeared. Then, someone said, making words appear in the air from thousands of kilometers away, "Is this Count Sylvan's power? I heard that he is a platinum tier elite who specializes in fire, earth, and water elemental magic. Apart from that, he also uses mysterious spatial magic. It seems that the rumors are true. I think a platinum tier mage can't affect another space from thousands of kilometers away. The one who carved the words must have been the Count's magical beast. It's a gold tier rock giant that can move underground quickly," another person said in awe. No matter what, the border count has given us a response. This time, we have a gold tier warrior and a team of silver tier mages. Even if Black Moon Castle has a gold tier magical beast to guard it, it won't be enough to defeat them. Wilbur's expression was wild as he waved his arms excitedly. We'll attack Black Moon Castle in 2 days. I hope that you can keep your men in line and not leak the news to anyone else. We also need to look for this woman, Nightingale. At the Black Moon Castle. Your posture is not right. Raise your hands a little higher. It is best to use your calves to move your waist and then move your shoulders. Then you'll be able to burst with more strength. The cultivation technique that you're practicing and the way you circulate your combat aura is too simple. If you can control your combat aura to consciously enter tiny places like your fingers or the ends of your hair, if you persevere, the depth of your combat aura will increase by several times fold. Alan, List, and about 30 guards were on a huge training field in front of the castle. They were posed in various positions, and Nightingale was there to comment on them. The woman sat on a bench as she peeled a Rainbow Phoenix chicken egg. Then she stuffed the boiled egg into her mouth and licked her lips in satisfaction. Watson had not lied to her. She had a constant supply of Rainbow Phoenix chicken eggs daily, so she did not keep to herself. Instead, she was there to share her experience. It had only been 2 days, but the guards had sudden enlightenment. Their strength had increased by a lot, and some of them were already on the verge of breaking through to the silver tier. Nightingale, what do you think of my men? Watson asked proudly as he stood behind Nightingale. Not bad. As long as they persevere, they can become elites, Nightingale said without a glance backward. Watson smiled. He was happy. Nightingale was the border count's subordinate. One could only imagine the guard's strength if she would call them elites. Watson lowered his head. He noticed the dozens of colorful rainbow phoenix chicken eggs in the basket next to Nightingale's hand. His heart ached as he complained, "Miss Nightingale, I may have to consider reducing your pay. I can't afford you eating the rainbow phoenix chicken eggs as a snack, no matter how rich I am." Nightingale could eat a lot. She consumed at least 100 eggs a day. He wondered why she was so thin if she could eat that much. That was not the point. The point was that the rainbow phoenix chicken could only lay 1,000 eggs a day, and there were 10,000 eggs in the house. After he deducted those that his family ate and the rewards he would give to his guards, they only had some left for sale, but it was not much. A rainbow phoenix chicken egg cost 10 gold coins, and 100 eggs were 1,000 gold coins. Therefore, Nightingale did not consume eggs but gold. As a man, oh, wait, you're only a boy. Well, don't be so stingy. Perhaps I can share my dark combat aura with you. Nightingale rolled her eyes, but she did not eat any more eggs. Instead, she stood up. A swirl of dark combat aura appeared in her left hand. It was like a shadow that swayed unsteadily or like an abyss that could devour everything. I cultivate a rare dark combat aura, and the cultivation method is the gold tier abyss shadow demons technique. Once you make it to the gold tier and above, you'll be able to control the shadow and make yourself invisible. A gold tier cultivation method for 100 eggs a day sounds reasonable, right?